So I'm going to confront something. Okay, there's someone on here. I did a video about dealing with my son today, and somebody on here making accusations. You know what? Stay off my videos if you're going to make accusations that aren't true. Honestly, stay off. So, I had to deal with my son today, and sometimes as a parent, although you are not running your kids' lives anymore because they're adults, you still have to deal with stuff, right? It's not like, oh, I'm an empty nester and I don't have to deal with my kids anymore. So, I don't know what that is on my forehead. So, I have a son who actually thought, I don't know what in the world, what kind of gull he thinks he has, or who he thinks he's talking to. I don't know who he thinks he's talking to. All right, but he actually thought that he could get away with calling me, his mother, a gold digger today. Have you ever had a kid like this who thinks he can get away with being fresh? So I got this person on here saying, oh, whatever happened to unconditional love? You can certainly love your kids as I do unconditionally. But does that mean you put up with garbage? Does that mean you put up with baloney? No, no. That's part of loving your kids, by teaching them they are not going to mistreat their parents. So, nothing I really did, just what he heard from his mother-in-law, that I was a gold digger. So this is why I kept my kids away from my husband's parents as much as I could, because they were nothing but trouble. Okay? So yeah, you don't talk back to your parents, but when your parents are like my in-laws, they're not even my parents. So I don't have the same weight toward them as I would toward my own parents. But you don't talk back to your parents, right? And your parents are told that they're not supposed to provoke their children to wrath. So, my mother-in-law, for some reason, thought it was okay to be calling me a gold digger when my husband wasn't paying the bills, and my husband continued to not care about paying the bills. She decided to call me a gold digger. So this went through our family like poison, like wildfire and poison, and she has got a bad mouth on her, Donna, and she is just not a happy person, miserable. So, this is the truth, and I've said it. So she was definitely trying to influence my husband. This is why I call her awful mother-in-law. She never ever tried to develop a relationship with me. She just went off and, thought because she was the mother-in-law she could do whatever she wanted. And that is an abuse of power. So, she never really, asked me anything in years, like, what I think or what I care about or anything. So, she tried to get between me and my husband often, and then she tried to get in my family. And so my son picks this up today, and he's in New Hampshire. He left his number with Dad at work. I don't know if he went and saw him or what. So he just, he's like, why did you go for child support? There are basics you have for your kids, right? You're living in a home. You're living electricity. You have food. You have vehicle repairs. Whatever, right? $120 a week doesn't even pay for half of it. So, and because I choose to stay with my sons, if I had a place of my own, it would be much more than that. But because I have a business deal with my other sons, he was trying to work off that and make it cheaper, that he didn't have to pay me as much because I chose to be frugal on how I live. So anyways, my son went off today, started running his mouth, and if you are living in any kind of society, you run your mouth to anybody in society and you're going to get slapped around. That's just the way it is. You don't go around running your mouth off to people unless you want to get hit in the mouth. You want a few punches in the mouth. That's usually how it works if you say certain things to people. So he thought he could get away with calling his mother because I'm his mother. If I was someone else, he wouldn't say this, right? He thought he could get away with telling his mother I'm a gold digger. And he thought he could get away with saying that I'm anti-trans. Even if I or that I hated trans. And even if I did, which I don't, it's not his business, right? So he's out of line. He's out of order today. Totally out of line. So I let him have it. Does that mean I don't love him? No. There's someone on here. Whatever happened to unconditional love? Yeah, you love unconditionally, but just like God also disciplines us, right? He loves us so much. He died for us. I loved my son so much. I went over to, there's probably still a bruise here. I bruise easy. I went over, gave plasma, was concerned about his welfare enough to go get him a hotel and help him out. And the person over at Plasma is like, we got to check out your arm because it has a bruise. And they're very careful that your arms look healthy, make sure people don't do drugs. I'm like, I just bruise easy. I always have. And so he's like, you need vitamin C. And I'm surprised nobody hasn't said that to you yet, like your doctor. I'm like, I don't really do the doctor thing. So yeah. So he, he had a mother, who sacrificed everything for my kids, laid down my life, and this is how we're supposed to be, Christ-like. But does God not have wrath? Does he not have anger? Does he not have discipline for the ones that are his? His children he loves. And anything he does is done in love, and it's done to correct you, okay? Those who don't believe in God, there is a wrath that's coming, and it's called hell, and it's coming for those who don't love God. So, same thing, your child is different than someone else's child in many ways when you're dealing with them. So my son, the one who I brought into this world, and Cosby used to say, and I can take you out, he decided to disrespect his mother. Now, I don't even put up with this from a person, like a stranger. So why would I feel I need to put up with this from my kids? I don't feel like I need to put up with this from anyone. My father used to say, and I agree with him on this one, is I don't owe you anything. Whether you're my kid or not, I don't owe you. I don't have to put up with your crap, whether you're my kid or not. And I agree with that. I don't see why parents have to think that they have to put up with their kids' crap. You're the parent, they're not. So you don't have to put up with your kids. I mean, it doesn't matter whether they're yours or not. You don't have to put up with it. And the most loving thing you can do if your kids are yours is to correct them. It is the most loving thing you can do. And it may hurt. It may not feel good. I mean, it doesn't mean that, I have the armor on. God talks about having our armor on, being strong, having our armor on. Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt to be a mother. But when you see your son going the wrong way, and you're like, you're not going to act like a queer, he came out with it. He wanted to dress like a girl. You're not going to act like a queer. You're not going to act like a fag. He was mad that his dad had said someone looked like a fag once. So, it's just the way it is. I mean, you're not going to, your kids don't run the show. They don't run it when they're young. You're the parent, and they don't run it when they're older. They don't. There's always someone above you, and eventually that's God. So don't tell me, whoever's on here, that I don't love my son unconditionally. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love suffers long. Yes, there is that side. And certainly, I had to take a lot with just watching him ruin his life. I mean, I actually, at 19, he had gotten involved with the wrong crowd, had something laced, marijuana laced. It was fentanyl, from what we can tell. And so he had to go to jail for that. He committed some kind of ruckus when he was on, fentanyl, and he ended up in jail. I didn't leave him. In jail. I went and visited him. They didn't know if it was meth too mixed with the fentanyl, but I will tell you, whatever he was on, it was demonic. It was demonic. He came over to our place, and I hadn't seen him in a little while, and he's like, killing's fun. I'm like, what did you say? And he goes, killing is fun. I'm like, you need to leave right now. So I knew he was on something, and I had called the police, and I was like, you need to get him. Something ain't right with him. This is what he's wearing. And they're like, well, we can't do anything until he commits a crime. I'm like, what? I'm like, he is not in his right mind. He needs some help. You know, he probably needed medical help more than anything. And Dad was in the tub, and I wasn't even going to get to the point of, you know, getting him out of my sight. I'm just like, you need to go. So he had left. He threw his license away or whatever. He was ticked off, threw his ID away. Police did pick him up for something he did. And he needed some medical help. But the police said, you know, we're not going to tell you how bad he came in here. We're not even going to tell you as mom how bad he came in here. So it was bad. It was really bad. And then I went over to visit him, and he wasn't even in his right mind. It was bad. And I don't know what kind of drug it was, but they had him in the jail for 6 months on the medical side, trying to stabilize him. And then when he had gone south, he needed a place to live. He came back to us, stayed with us. He needed a place to live again and stay with us. I don't know what he was on again. And so this is why, you know, it's been like 10 years. 10 years of suffering with him and being like, look, you need to straighten out your life. You know, you need, you know, some good decisions here. You hang around with these people, and it's always the wrong crowd. It's always the homeless. It's always the, you know, the wrong crowd that gets to him. And for all I know, he could have been on something today when he was saying that to me, because it felt demonic again. And there is, scripture says there's a love that's pure, that is a good gift that's given to us, and it comes down from heaven above. It's not self-centered. So when you see someone, including my husband, being self-centered, like, I was left in my truck and I had to do this and I had to do this, that's not we. We had a crisis. We were trying to figure out the best way to deal with things. So don't say that you love God, it says in scripture, and then act like that comes down from heaven when you are self-centered like that and self-willed. So I don't know what was going on today. I have been praying for him because I love him. I have been praying a lot for him that he would be safe. I pray for my sons almost every day. So that's not a mother who doesn't love her sons. You know, it's unconditional. The love is there, but the actions are going to be depending on their behavior. He has ownership. There is a sense of ownership, right? There's a sense of, well, maybe I shouldn't say this. If I do decide to disrespect my mother, maybe this would happen. Or if I choose to disrespect my mother or choose to come over here months ago and say he was, I don't know what happened. He had a lot of anger, he said, from the divorce. I don't know what it was, but someone said get help from a priest, get an extortioner or something, because they saw the video and he was like, I'm gonna kill her. This was me, right? So if it was anyone else, I would have called the police, had that person arrested, and that's it, right? But because I have so much unconditional love for my kids, I had said, you know, you're not coming over anymore. Our safety's at stake. You got younger brothers. You're being a bad influence. Not to mention, one of them had seen him, and the other one heard him too. And one of them was like, oh my goodness, he felt totally traumatized from it. He did. And, you know, you're not going to come over. You're not going to start fights over here. You're just not, until you can learn to behave. So when that trust is earned again, then we'll talk. But until then, you're not coming over. So the trust was not earned, obviously, after today. So I said, you said sorry, but you're really not sorry because you're doing it again. So same thing I had to deal with Dad. You know, you say you're sorry, and then you do it again. So I think whoever's on here questioning every single judgment I have needs to realize, first of all, I don't think you're a parent. Second of all, I think you don't have the whole story. So 10 years of putting up with this and saying enough is enough. You know, we've been patient with you. We've been good to you. And you want to continue to act like this, you can feel the consequences. So that's what I got, guys. Parenting is not always peaches and cream. When they're little, yeah, it's easy, right? When they're little, I mean, you just tell them what to do and it's pretty easy, you know? When they get in the teen years, hopefully you're best friends, but something in adulthood that you wouldn't even put up with from a stranger, you don't have to put up with that. And that is a very clear boundary that you need to have with your kids. You don't have to put up with their crap.